Life insurance is one of the best ways you can protect your family. But here's what most parents don't realize. Unless it's tied into your estate plan, that money may not protect your kids the way you think it will. It can get delayed in probate, dumped outright on an 18-year-old, or even lost to creditors, swindlers, or bad decisions. In this video, I'll show you the 3 biggest mistakes parents make with life insurance, what to look for in your trust to make sure it's handled correctly without jeopardizing tax savings or exposing it to creditors, and when an ILIT, an Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust, makes sense. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll show you how to get my protective parent plan checklist so you can make sure your family's plan really works when it counts. So sometimes young parents don't think they need life insurance and they put it off. And I get it. Statistically, you're young. What are the chances that you're going to die young? But here's the thing. Group statistics, it's illogical to apply an individual case to group statistics. I know we do it all the time. But here's the thing. There's no way of knowing where you as an individual will fall into the group. Okay? So, unfortunately, because of this way of thinking, I have many colleagues who are insurance brokers, and every single one of them can tell you about clients or potential clients they tried to convince to buy life insurance, but who decided against it. It's one of those things that's important, but not urgent until it's too late, okay? And later, a lot of those same families suffered the unthinkable. A heart attack at 39, a brain tumor at 42, a tragic car accident at 32. And then the widow is calling in tears, wishing they had gotten coverage. So even when families do have life insurance, most I've seen are underinsured. Okay, so you need to think about all the years of income a spouse would lose if the other dies. And it's not just income, okay? It's the support, the time, the help with errands, someone to pick up the kids from school while the other person is grocery shopping. So that's work on top of their day job. So there's more than just their income that's going to be lost, okay? So losing a spouse means losing both financial and practical support. And then there's the stay-at-home parent. So often I have seen them not insured at all or insured at half of the level of the working spouse. But if you added up the cost of paying someone to do all the things that a stay-at-home parent often does, like care for the kids, clean the house, drive the kids to school and activities, run errands, and cook meals, that total would often exceed what they could earn in the workplace. That's often the reason why a lot of people choose to have one parent stay home in the first place, because they wouldn't make enough money to make it even worth working outside of the workplace. Okay, so that contribution has enormous financial value, putting aside obviously the emotional and practical value. Okay, which means that that parent needs just as much coverage. So the rule of thumb is buy as much life insurance as you can qualify for and you can afford, and do it as early as possible, because the younger and healthier you are, the cheaper your rates will be. Okay, so not all life insurance companies are the same, and some are the kind, frankly, you simply do not want to do business with. Now, this is why you should go with an insurance broker. A broker is different from someone who only sells policy from one company. So like State Farm or New York Life, okay? A broker shops the entire marketplace, finds the best plan for the best price, and represents you, not the insurance company, okay? And listen, those flashy online companies with really great marketing, they often don't give you the best rates. I experienced this myself. When I went online and didn't involve my broker, I ended up paying for a plan that cost me more and gave me less insurance. Okay. And just because they use AI and online forms doesn't even mean they're going to pass on the savings to you. Unfortunately, that seems to be the practice of a lot of companies. Instead of being leaner and more efficient and passing on savings to the consumer, they're just hoarding it for themselves, really the shareholders and the executives. So you have to understand that just because they found cheaper ways of going about this doesn't mean it's going to be less money for you. Okay. Now, nothing beats a human being who can explain your options, answer your questions in real time, and advocate for you when it counts. All right. That advocacy matters most when your family needs to file a claim. So I recently had a friend whose father passed away, and she wanted the proceeds of his life insurance to be direct deposited into a bank account and not mailed as a check to her mother, who lived in another state and was struggling with dementia symptoms. There was no way that she was going to be able to make it to the mailbox before her mother had a chance to possibly lose it due to her symptoms. So it took well over 10 calls and more than 3 weeks to get it resolved. And it was just, she felt like she was just banging her head against a brick wall. Now, here's the thing. An insurance broker could have handled that process far more easily and quickly than doing it yourself. And so these are some of the benefits that you get that you cannot imagine you need until it's too late. And so there's that risk you take by cutting out the insurance broker and dealing with a customer service rep. Because my friend dealt with several customer service reps, and it took her so much time and so much effort to get to the same thing that one call from an insurance broker could have gotten. All right. So another mistake, and unfortunately this is pretty common, is people listing minor children as beneficiaries, or they'll list their spouse as the primary beneficiary and their minor children, or just one minor child, cutting out the rest of their children as a beneficiary. All right. So this creates major problems. Now, a minor can't legally accept life insurance proceeds, so the money would then have to go through probate while the court decided who would manage it for that child or children. So that process causes delays and extra costs. So you're paying for a process when you could have completely avoided it. And then once that child turns 18, they receive the money outright, which can create a whole new set of problems. So just think about this. If you just ended up having a bunch of cash land on your lap when you're 18 years old. There are so many problems with this, but that's not the point of this video. So I'll do another video about that and in the future and link it to this. Now, some people, like I said earlier, do name their spouse as a beneficiary, which seems fine until you consider what happens if both spouses die at the same time, for instance, in a car accident, or even sort of close together. Unfortunately, there's statistics that show a lot of spouses die within a year of each other. So, and again, we don't know. Group statistics apply to an individual. We have no idea how that's going to play out. However, it's a risk. So what ends up happening, and I've had many colleagues tell me this, is that what ends up happening is it goes into when the first spouse dies, the insurance goes to the surviving spouse. So, okay, great. We don't deal with probate then, but then they die within a year or two because, believe it or not, a lot of these spouses don't anticipate dying so quickly after their spouse, or they're just grieving and just this isn't the top of their priority and they don't get around to it. So then what ends up happening is they pass away, and then that life insurance proceeds is in a bank account in that surviving spouse's name, and then it ends up in probate then. And then again, you're back to delays, you're back to extra costs and things like that, and no privacy as well. So everybody can see what happened to that money and who got it. So that is another common problem with naming an individual as a beneficiary. And another one, oftentimes people will leave it to somebody. If they do have minor children, they'll leave it to a relative or a friend. But as soon as you give somebody's name with the intention of saying, hey, use this money to take care of my children, it exposes that money. It really becomes, it's really a gift to that person. And then they can do whatever they want with it. And yes, in most scenarios, I think people will end up, with the intentions of taking care of your child. But what ends up happening is it then becomes a risk for being exposed to creditors or divorces and things like that. So there's a ton of reasons why that's just a bad idea as well. You just don't want to give life insurance proceeds to anybody else. And of course, too, it could be subjected to gift tax if it's not their own children. So, and they're giving to them more than the gift tax exemption. So there's all these issues with that. That's not a great plan. So, all right. So this is why you should name your trust as the beneficiary. But, and this is a big one, not all trusts are created equal. And I know this can be difficult for people to understand because it's complicated, essentially. Not even if you were to look at two $2,000 trusts, they're not necessarily going to be the same. And chances are they're not. So you're not necessarily going to get the same thing. So that's one of the issues we have with just price shopping for trusts. I always tell people it's not like a Dyson vacuum. If you're going to see how much it costs at Costco versus Best Buy or anywhere else you could buy an appliance like that, you can know that you're at least getting the exact same vacuum and you're really able to compare by price. Well, that's not the case for trusts. Trusts can be very different at the exact same price point, which is one of the reasons why I have this channel, so that you can become educated enough to understand those differentiations and be able to do a better job purchasing a trust or hiring an attorney to create your estate plan along with you. Okay, so not all trusts are created equal. So here's an important thing for your trust. So if your trust is going to receive life insurance proceeds, it needs the proper language to accept them. So without that, you risk ruining tax savings or exposing the money to creditors. Okay, so in California, life insurance benefits can be protected from creditors, but only if your estate plan is properly drafted. Okay, so life insurance proceeds are generally exempt from creditor claims if they're paid directly to a named beneficiary and not to your estate or a revocable trust that could be subject to debt. So if your trust is vague, so it's one of these simple trusts that everyone's just like, I need a simple trust. All right, if it's a simple trust that's just basically acting like a catch-all for all your assets, creditors may argue that those funds are fair game. So that's why it's so important not only to include clear language protecting life insurance proceeds, but also to give your trustee specific guidance. All right, so without that, a cautious trustee might use those funds to pay debts unnecessarily. So a few smart words in your trust can protect your legacy and ensure your loved ones receive what you intended. Now, for most families, a revocable living trust with the right language is enough. Okay, but if you have significant wealth, own a business, or purchase a very large policy, an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust, may be the right tool for you. And here's why. An ILIT keeps life insurance proceeds out of your taxable estate. Now, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that the federal government had just passed makes the federal estate tax exemption to be $15 million starting in 2026 and permanently indexed for inflation. So that's higher than what it was before, but for high net worth families, people with really big real estate portfolios in California. I mean, these days, California real estate is at a premium high, or they just have very large insurance policies. It can still be estate taxes can still be a concern. So an ILIT also protects proceeds from creditors. So it gives it this extra shield because it is irrevocable and it is definitely not counted as your personal asset. It gives you control, letting you structure payouts over time or earmark funds for specific purposes like education or business succession. So if you're a business owner, an ILITs are often used to fund buy-sell agreements and keep companies running smoothly after the owner's death. So if we want to protect your business, under certain circumstances, this is a great solution. So here's the takeaway. So most families don't need an ILIT, but if your assets and your insurance push you above the exemption, or if you want extra protection, it can be an essential tool. All right. You've worked hard to build a life for your family, but life insurance alone isn't enough. Okay. If it isn't tied into your estate plan, your loved ones could be left waiting in probate, exposed to creditors, or unprotected when they need stability the most. Okay. So that's why I created the Protective Parent Plan Checklist. Okay. So you can see where the gaps are and how to close them before it's too late. Right? You'll find the link in the description below. And if you like clarity about your own plan, you can also schedule an intro 15-minute consult with me to see if I can help you make sure your insurance and your trust and your legacy are working the way you expect them to. And if you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. In fact, stay tuned. In my next video, I'll be talking about disability insurance and how it fits into protecting your family when life doesn't go as planned.